Hi everybody. Today we're going to be harvesting some honey. Okay, so this is always the best part of beekeeping. You know, when we think about why you keep bees, there's a lot of really good reasons, but honey is probably our favorite reason. So we're going to extract the honey from the frames through a process, basically centrifugal force is how we're going to do this. Okay, so the way that a honeycomb works normally is the bees gather nectar and they bring it in and they create these cells out of wax, and in those cells they put the nectar. And nectar is basically just sugar water, okay? There's a lot more to it, but really it's sugar water. And so what they do is they put it in there and they fan it with their wings, and that sort of dehydrates it a little bit, and then they add a little bit more and it dehydrates it a little bit, and it's a lot more complex than that, but that's basically what it is. So a typical honeycomb will have a mixture of, you know, these cells have honey, this one has eggs in it, this one has honey, and that's just the way that they live and work, okay? That's pretty cool, but when we want to harvest honey, we don't really want to kill all their eggs and all their babies and everything like that. So what we do is we reserve part of the hive for just the bees, and that's called the brood chambers, okay? And mostly what we have upstairs on the roof are brood chambers. Usually we have two large hives like this with large frames inside, and the bees live there and they work there and they live and they die, and that's what they do, and we leave that to the bees. When they get both of those chambers pretty full, you don't want to let them get crowded, plus now it's time to get your honey. So what we do is we put what's called a queen excluder, which is basically a screen that goes on top. And the screen is small enough to, big enough to let bees go through, but too small to let the queen go through, okay? What that means is everything that's above that line is going to be just honey and no eggs. And what we get is basically like this. So you can see this is mostly capped. You can see some of the honey glistening in there. Some of it's capped, okay? And this is all honey that they had intended to save for themselves, but we decided that this is ours. We always make sure the bees have enough honey to get through the winter. We actually are harvesting a little bit early this year because the bees developed a nice set of mites this year. And in order to treat the mites, we have to use some chemicals and things like that, which we don't really want in our honey. So I decided, you know what, let's just pull what we have and we'll call it a day. So that's what this is. Okay, so let me get a couple of these out of here. What we're going to do is take the caps, which are these that are sealed, and we're going to shave a little bit of that off, okay? And to do that, we're going to mount it right up here, okay? And this is the coolest thing ever. This is an electric knife, okay? It's hot, and what the heat does is, let's see, the heat melts the tips of these, and they come right off, okay? And it's just melting away. And you don't want to let it get too much, but you just want to take the cap off. You don't want to disturb the actual honeycomb. So you can see I'm just taking the top layer off, like so. Okay. Make sure that's open there. Take the other side. This one is not as full. We're just going to take a little bit out of this one. We decided to harvest early this year, and that means that everything the bees do from this point forward will belong to them, and we'll make sure that they have enough honey to get through the winter. And you notice what we're doing here is we're keeping the wax. For the most part, the honeycomb itself is intact, okay? We've got a few pieces here we're going to shave off, just some protrusions, okay? I'm going to take these things off as they get in the way. And the reason we do it over this little box here is all the wax can be saved, plus any honey that I spill in this process is going to fall down in here and we can save it. And this goes in our extractor. Okay, so basically this is going to spin. I'm not going to do it all the way now because there's only one. It's going to spin. The honey's going to come out. It's going to go to the bottom and it's going to go in our little pot here. Okay, so let's see. Here's a good one. Okay, once again, take our hot knife, and you just kind of want to use the edge as your guide and run right along here. Just taking the tip of it off. It's okay. So it's kind of a tedious process. We've got one hive. Imagine if you had 50 or 100 or thousands, which is what some places have. And there are services that will do this for you. And they'll take out the honey, and they have some big machine, and they take, obviously you have to pay them, but they also keep all the wax. And what that means is they're not as careful as I'm being about the wax, because they then sell the wax for other purposes. Which means your bees have to start over again next year with brand new bee honeycomb. Okay. Right. So this is a lengthy process. And when you do this part, you want to make sure that they're evenly spaced. You don't want to do an uneven number because it's a centrifuge and you don't want it spinning out of control. Plus, I'm going to be the labor that's turning this thing. Okay. There you go. I'm getting better at this. It's actually very satisfying to watch. And some of these ones that are already open, we're not going to worry about because whatever honey's in there is going to come out all by itself. The thing about the wax is it takes 8 pounds of nectar to make 1 pound of wax. So if bees have to build a whole new honeycomb, they start off at a serious disadvantage, which is why established hives produce honey a lot better than brand new hives, because they're starting with a better area here. Okay, it goes this way. Let's see, like that. We're going to do one more. We're going to start off with 4 frames and just spin them. Oops, took a little more there. Bees work really hard for all this stuff. So you want to be nice and you want to be respectful of their labor. Let's do a quick run on this side. This is mostly open. Okay. Now, let's start with what we have. Everything in there. Put some covers on it because it does get a little bit messy. Okay. All right, we're gonna spin. Thank you. How we're doing? Okay, jump ahead about an hour. What we've done here is taken all the frames and we spun them, and then we spun them again, and then we kept spinning them by hand, and then we realized something that's very obvious. Cold honey does not flow as well as warm honey. Standing there in the art studio, it's about 68 degrees. So we moved out here where it's closer to 90 degrees, and sure enough, our honey is flowing. So as you can see it coming out here, it's literally as slow as molasses, and honey's coming out into a strainer, and it'll end up in a bucket. This will probably take a while. What's happening now is there's still little bits of, honeycomb and debris and things like that get in there. So the strainer will take all of that out, and it's going to really just be filtered honey at that point. No further processing is necessary. Honey, of course, is one of the most stable foods there is. It will not go bad. It can crystallize sometimes, but even that is just a sign of good honey. They have found honey in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, and it was still good. So I think our honey will be just fine. Anyway, this is our honey harvest. Looks like I'm going to be here for a while. See you guys later.